Are you wondering on how to best provide leadership and direction in challenging times? Stay tuned for this episode of Team Success. Hi, Shannon Waller here, and welcome to this episode of Team Success. Today, I want to jump into a topic that I think is, well, first of all, always timely, but feels particularly timely right now, and that is leadership, especially during challenging times. Lots of things are happening at Coach. I've gone through several major economic challenges, including SARS in 2003, the economic downturn in 2007, 8, 9, and most recently, the COVID-19 pandemic. So it's really interesting. How do you keep your head on straight when a lot of external forces are pushing at you, when things are changing incredibly rapidly, and you have to figure out how you are going to respond. This particular term came up, and this is actually one of our Strategic Coach core values, which I love, and that is to be alert, curious, responsive, and resourceful. So I wanted to share this with you because I think as leaders, and we're all leaders in our own lives, we have our families, we have our teams, we have our colleagues. Certainly if you're the owner of the company, you are definitely in a leadership role if you're in a team leader position. But I think it's actually up to all of us to provide leadership when things are challenging. And sometimes that's challenging in our personal life. It often is challenging in our professional life. And it gets kind of exaggerated when things are changing rapidly. So how do you keep your head on straight? How do you keep from just wanting to be, pull the covers over your head, although that can be super tempting some days. The thing that I have found most useful is actually to consciously think about being alert, being curious, being responsive, and being resourceful. So let's drill down to each one of those things, because I think, again, there's kind of a message and a lesson in each of them, especially from a leadership standpoint, because a lot of people are in reactive mode. So this is all in opposition to just being reactive and to be freaking out, although give yourself a few moments and then get back to it. It's usually my philosophy. And surround yourself with people who are able to think rationally in a fearful time. So let's talk about being alert. This means paying attention. This means having your eyes open, your head up, looking around. In today's world right now, I'm just making sure I'm listening to reputable news sources, not conjecture, because I'm not a big fan of that. I don't like when people make up stuff. Oh, I have to share with you a fabulous expression from one of our coaches, past coaches, brilliant man, Dan Taylor, unfortunately no longer with us, but he had this great term called must-see, M-U-S-T-S-Y. Now, I'm going to give you the polite version, but there's a slightly cruder version, which totally is appropriate. It's making up stuff to scare yourself. You can replace stuff with whichever other word you would like, but making up stuff to scare yourself. So there's being alert to what is real versus what is conjecture, what is made up, so you don't scare yourself, I think is very relevant and pertinent and prudent right now. And then there's being curious. And particularly, I know for our leadership team, it's paying attention to what reality is. It's also being curious about how it impacts everybody. So how will this impact our clients and our coaches and our team and, certainly future-based income and all of the things that you are probably thinking of in this interesting time. By the way, I've been calling them interesting times, not hard times, because I'd rather stay open. I would rather stay curious about what's possible. And the part that I am really enjoying right now is how can we be incredibly responsive? How can we best take care of people? And I have to say, being other-focused, not self-focused in this moment is such a phenomenal way out of anxiety and out of fear. It's like, how can I be of service? How can I help other people? How can I create value? And one of the things I appreciate most about Strategic Coach is that we help people think. Not just react emotionally, but also to use those emotions to fuel really, really great thinking. So, some of our program advisors are having strategy circle conversations with their clients in terms of how they handle this challenging situation. But that's something you also can do for your clientele, for your team, for the people in your families, actually, people who might be a little freaked out right now. So how can you be responsive? How can you proactively take care of people? Well, if you're in a leadership role, in any part of your life, this, I hope, really, really resonates with you. That ability, responsible means able to respond. Like, how fabulous is that? In traumatic, challenging, changing times, how can we stay able to respond? How can we stay responsive to what's going on in a careful way, not a crazy way, To my mind, that gives me leadership, gives me direction. That's our definition of leadership, by the way, is providing direction so that I can respond appropriately. Again, calmly, with compassion, with love. That's my way of being my best self. I'm going to suspect it's also yours. And then the last one is resourceful. How can we be incredibly resourceful? And I actually really enjoy this one because it spurs creativity, it spurs capability. It means that I am connecting with people, I'm not leaving them isolated. And it means that I'm just getting super, again, curious about what else I could do. What's a different way I could do things? What's a way I could communicate that's effective? What's a way that I could be supportive? In fact, that's kind of why I'm having this conversation with you right now, is because I want to encourage you to, instead of, just retreating, to actually be carefully alert, curious, responsive, and then most importantly, resourceful, because that's what's going to help us all get through a challenging situation. And again, we have all faced numerous challenging situations in our lives. It can be a very personal circumstance. Maybe something happened with your personal family economics. Maybe there's something that happened on a team. Maybe someone experienced a dramatic illness. Regardless of what's going on in the world, we have all dealt with this. And the situations I find that I know I have been the most successful in, and my colleagues and my friends have been the most successful in, is when we are actually somehow able to keep our heads in the right space, and by paying attention, by being curious, by being responsive, not pushing it away, and then also by being resourceful and creative. And this keeps us into our kind of our prefrontal cortex rather than just our reactive mind. So you are actually consciously moving mental energy from the back to the front of your brain. We can get cued from the environment. If scary stuff's going on, great. Pay attention to that. Do not ignore it. That would not be smart. But what you really want to do is move it to the front of your mind where you can think rationally about things. I've been enjoying listening to Daniel Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast and Slow. And he talks about System 1 and System 2. System 1 is our system that responds to threats. And essentially, it's fight, flight, or freeze. Now, in an emergency situation, that makes the most sense. If a saber-toothed tiger is chasing you, then you need to get out of the vicinity as quickly as possible. However, the threats or things that are happening either in your personal world or in your external world don't really have that capability. Running away is challenging. You might need to isolate yourself, but still, how can we stay in communication with one another is my question. But then how you want to respond to that is thoughtfully. You want to move from your fast brain into your slow brain, which, by the way, has to be a bit provoked to kick into gear. And so this is where you want to be really conscious. And if you're in Strategic Coach, I want to strongly recommend that you use our tools. They are some of the best tools I know from getting into reactive to responsive modes, whether or not it's the impact filter. By the way, if you're not in Strategic Coach, great place to be, is in Coach. But if you're not, our impact filter is available in our small quarterly ambition series book, The Extraordinary Impact Filter. I also love the Strategy Circle, which is available in the book called My Life as a Strategy Circle, available off strategiccoach.com and Amazon. So if you want some really great thinking tools to help you think through, to help you be more alert, curious, responsive, and resourceful, we have tools for that. One of our other tools, not in book form yet, is the Experience Transformer, which is simply what is the situation, what's working about it, and what's not. And then knowing what I know now, what would I do differently next time? This is a great preparedness conversation to have with yourself and with your team. It really helps you up your capabilities for future situations and can even help you up your capability for right now. So my point here is let's be thoughtful. Let's be, don't put your head in the sand. Don't ignore what's going on. Don't pretend it's not happening. I'm a fairly optimistic person, and then reconciling that with reality is always interesting, but I'm really taking a lot of direction from being alert, being curious, being responsive and resourceful, and I know that the leaders that I coached on Wednesday also were feeling the same way. So I thought that'd be a really just useful message for you right now. So my strong encouragement is that you are willing to give direction to yourself and then to others, and do it again by being alert, by being curious, by being responsive, and finally, maybe most importantly, by being resourceful. We are talented, capable people with great intelligence and experience and networks. We live in an incredibly connected society, which has massive advantages. There's so much that can happen digitally, not just in person, which when being in person with one another is a little dangerous, then this is a great alternative to have. But really, it means that we can actually take this opportunity to stay really, really grounded. And again, be useful and to create value for others. So I think we can actually turn this into a great opportunity to do things differently, to do things well. And again, I think these 4 ways of being are great instructions for life, but especially for how to handle very challenging times. So thank you for listening. I hope you find this useful. Please let us know at questions@strategiccoach.com. And as always, here's to your team success.